Sorry guys that we are late, but we just had a few technical difficulties we were sorting through. So it is 10:09 and I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. The chair notes there's a quorum present and we'll do the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, 2.0 is additions and revisions to the agenda. Does this have anything?
I do not.
The one thing that came through after we sent this out was an agreement from ODOT for one of Marla's STIF agreements, fiscal year 2021 through 2023. And so if there's no objections, I'd like to go ahead and add that to the consent agenda. Since we've already approved the grant agreement and all that kind of stuff, this is just finalizing it and saying, yes, we'll take the money, please.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So I will add that as 4.4, which is consider approval. Fiscal year 2023. Number. 947. Okay. Any other additions or revisions? If not, we'll go ahead and move into correspondence and public comment. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair, give your name and address, and limit comments to 3 minutes. You are dialing in, that's *6 to unmute yourself, or there's an unmute button on the Zoom on the lower left-hand side, which we should all be familiar with at this point, where that is located. And then, of course, as we move through the agenda, we're very informal here. So if folks want to chime in as we move through, we obviously welcome that feedback and questions as we go. Any public comments? Doesn't look like it at this point. Under correspondence, I just wanted to note that there is a letter from DEQ, which is it's a cover letter, and then it says on the back of this letter is the 2019 DEQ Material Recovery and Waste Generation Summary for your waste shed. So it lists calculated recovery rate and all kinds of stuff. So for folks who are interested in seeing that from DEQ, that will be part of the packet on the county's website. And
how do those numbers arrive?
These numbers, what page are you on? I can tell you.
Well, there's 3 different sets of charts.
Well, these numbers come from Waste Management.
All of them.
Yes.
So that takes in without disposal. And
yes.
Yeah. And then the other piece that's in here is a letter to the assessor's office from Department of Revenue, basically saying that the CAFA grant has been approved and the amount of funding that's coming. So that's just an FYI for the court. And again, folks who want to read all of that fun inside baseball stuff is all on the website.
All right.
It's fascinating, CAFA. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda.
Any questions, comments? I move we accept the consent agenda.
1 second.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the consent agenda, which consists of consider approval of June 2nd, 2021 regular meeting minutes, consider approval of June bills pending review, consider approval of intergovernmental agreement for development and support of the property assessment and taxation search web application. Fascinating read.
Right.
And consider approval of fiscal year 2021-2023 ODOT agreement number 34947, which is the STIF grant. Is there further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mission
accomplished.
Mission accomplished. Motion carried. It's gonna be a long meeting if I keep stumbling. Keep stumbling. Okay. Under unfinished business, we'll go into 5.1, which is second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2021-04, an ordinance providing for amendments to the Gilliam County Zoning and Land Development Ordinance affecting Article 4, adding Section 4.140, Rural Residential 2 Zone. I think that should read actually Rural Residential 3 Zone, and amending the comprehensive plan map and zoning map to apply Rural Residential 3 to the platted subdivision known as Dunn's Addition to the city of Condon. We held a public hearing and proceeded with the first reading during our last meeting on June 2nd. So in order to adopt the ordinance, we would need to proceed with a second reading and final adoption.
I move to have the second reading of ordinance number 2021-04 by title only.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded that we have the second reading of ordinance number 2021-04 by title only. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. And Pat, did you want to note that,
I had a conflict.
that you have your conflict? Okay, got to read this. Let's see. In the county court for the state of Oregon, in and for the county of Gilliam, ordinance number 2021-04, in the matter of an ordinance providing for amendments to the Gilliam County Zoning and Land Development Ordinance, affecting Article 4, adding Section 4.140, RR3, Rural Residential 3 Zone, and amending the comprehensive plan map and adding the comprehensive plan map and zoning map to apply Rural Residential 3 to the platted subdivision known as Dunn's Addition to the city of Condon.
I move to accept the second reading of ordinance number 2021-04 by title only and to adopt the ordinance.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded that we accept the second reading of ordinance number 2021-04 by title only and to adopt the ordinance. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on. 5.2 is update on Port of Arlington Willow Creek intergovernmental agreement resolution. Goodness. Okay, so here's where we are. The port, I believe their council drafted I know their council drafted the initial IGA. I don't know, Jeff, did your board actually vote on that?
That was my understanding.
Okay.
Part of that.
So
yeah, I'm pretty sure they did.
But they did that, yeah, I'm sure they did.
So then it came to us and it went to our legal counsel. Our legal counsel has expressed some concerns about the lack of specificity regarding the project. And not that they wouldn't necessarily review it and say it's okay, but wanted to just confirm with the court that that's the direction that we would like to go in. So, because as they were reading it, they said without having the project, it's really unclear what the partners, what the expectations and commitments are beyond just the money. And so given that we have now a new port director and in 2 weeks having a majority of new board members at the port, I just wanted to raise this and see if this was something that you guys wanted legal counsel to just review it as is and keep it very broad and generic, or if we wanted to talk with that new port board and the new port director about whether there's a specific project that we want to tie the IGA to and whether we want to have our council make some edits to sort of capture what that project would look like.
Well, I think I'd like to see us wait for the new port board so that they have ownership of what they're doing in the future, because these are future projects. Mm-hmm. And for Jeff to be involved in that as well.
Yeah, I just had the request to find out what the status was. And when I did that, I found out that it was different than what had been submitted, which is what we'd agreed on prior to. And so I guess, you know, all the conversations I've had, and I have talked to Jeff since too, you can confirm or deny what I say, but basically the flexibility, not knowing what projects are out there, it's, what are you gonna dream a project up, put a name on it, or try to force something through off what's there? Or, you know, I think there can be some discussion around it, but it, to me, they were not funded for any economic development for 2 years. And they're looking to have some funding so they can be ready to move if a project comes up. And I heard a real good scenario the other day that economic development is kind of like playing baseball. You get up to the plate and you swing the bat.
You hope
and
you make
strike
a
out quite a little bit. But every now and then you hit a home run. And so, you know, the flexibility, because you're not going to nail everything down, but some of it is just going to take some funding to get it started to see where it's going to go. And, you know, hopefully they turn out well. So I just think it's really difficult to try to pin it down on an unknown project in the IGA. And I thought the IGA was fine knowing that those funds were going to be jointly agreed upon regardless of what that project was or projects. And I thought it needed to be more than one project.
Well, it says that. In section 2A, it says in the place of obligations, the port agrees to identify and submit a joint project or series of joint projects to the county for approval. And then if approved, parties mutually agree. And I think that gives us the opportunity to weigh in on what those projects are. And I agree with that.
You know, Jeff's input.
How do we know what the projects are at this point?
And Jeff's input on the, you know, whether it's now or later is, I mean, I don't have a problem one way or the other. I think it's probably.
I mean, honestly, at this point, we probably would have to wait for our board to come on because we don't have another really meeting with the old board.
Right.
Right.
You know, so
yeah.
Yeah, we're 2 weeks away from a new board.
Yeah, we're 2 weeks away.
So am I hearing the consensus seems to be that we would like legal counsel to do the review to keep it general for now.
Mm-hmm.
And then once the new board comes in, maybe start a discussion about what potential projects might look like and at least begin that discussion. Okay.
Because this allows us to do that.
And I've actually got some projects coming down the pipe here, and something I would want to talk to the board about anyway. Some hydrogen companies, some data centers coming in, things of that nature. Maybe, you know, and then they're willing to maybe help make road improvements up there at the Mesa. So, I don't know. I mean, we definitely should probably wait for the
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I am also with you guys, and I am. You know, I'm
Now, I had a discussion with Catherine, who's coming on board the other day, and one of her suggestions was finish developing the Mesa so it's shovel ready, and that, you know, that there's nothing wrong with that theory, but that is not real specific either.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. What does that mean? Yeah.
What does that mean?
What does that look like? Yeah.
Oh, so, I see her on there. Hey, Catherine.
Good morning. So my issue.
The sound's not coming through. Just a second.
Oh. Can you hear anything?
One moment, Catherine.
That's okay. I can hear you.
You're through. Go ahead.
Okay. So what I want to clarify with what I talked with Pat about, and two, I appreciate as a new board member commissioner coming in is we've waited this long. There's 3 new people. I would appreciate if it's put off for another 2 weeks to 3 weeks to see what the new commissioners. I'm just one of the 3 and one of 5. But what I was talking to Pat is one of just the infrastructure, because I've taken one brief look at the Mesa, and there's dirt roads and there's platted lines. But I think if you had it shovel ready by making sure the infrastructure and the roads are to these lots, it would make it a lot more marketable also. And Jeff or some of the other port members may, but mine was a little more specific than just let's get it shovel ready. It was actually, there's lots platted. Let's get the infrastructure to the lot line so they're ready to go. But, and when we think about it, it's $547,000. That's not going to go very far with the price of projects are right now. So I am hoping we can have a discussion at the first port meeting to decide what projects are the priority to move forward.
Sounds good.
Great.
I think we're all good.
Yeah.
Okay, so for next steps, I will have council look at it with an eye toward just making sure that it's legally sound in the generic way that it's written right now. And then depending on how quickly they can get that turned around, it'll either be, I should note that Christy Monson, who was our legal counsel up until very recently, is leaving for DOJ on the 29th. And so it's likely going to switch over to another legal counsel. So that may cause just a slight delay to get the new person up to speed on what we're doing. And because Willow Creek was very convoluted. How we all got to where we're sitting is sometimes difficult to explain to somebody who doesn't know who the parties are. So anyway, all this to say, we'll get it back on the court's agenda once I get a sign off from legal counsel on it. Does that work for everybody? Good. Okay, let's move on to 5.3, and 5.3 and 5.4 are actually connected. This is consider approval of the intergovernmental agreement with Wheeler County for the provision of joint community correction services. And then 5.4 is consider approval of resolution for the dissolution of Tri-County Community Corrections. So just to recap for those who are joining from home, on March 10th, well, up until for years and years, we've done community corrections between Gilliam, Sherman, and Wheeler County. On March 10th, we received notice from Sherman County that they are intending to withdraw from Tri-County Community Corrections. They would like to partner with Wasco County instead. And so during our April 7th meeting, we sort of began a discussion on what the logistics of doing a Gilliam-Wheeler Community Corrections partnership would look like. And so the proposed intergovernmental agreement establishes that new partnership. It was drafted by our legal counsel, Christy Monson. Basically, Tina Potter would become a Gilliam County employee, and then Wheeler County would be contracting for her services. And the exchanging of money is basically just the state community corrections funds that would have normally gone to Wheeler County will be passed through to us. And then, as you guys know, since we have already done the budget, that community corrections budget is running through our budget. So we would handle the AP and payroll and all that kind of stuff. And then as well as any other revenues derived from fees for services would come into Gilliam County to cover it. The partnership would become effective July 1st. I did send this over to Judge Morley. I have not heard back from him. So my suggestion is that if you're comfortable with the contents, that we go ahead and approve it, assuming that if Wheeler County comes back and says, actually, there's a tweak we want to make, I can bring it back to our court. But if they say it's good, then we're all ready to go. And then this, so I would be looking if we're ready to move forward on a motion on that specific thing. And then the second document is a resolution dissolving Tri-County Community Corrections. So basically the original agreement says that all 3 county courts have to unanimously approve dissolving the entity. So the draft resolution has been sent to both Sherman and Wheeler County. I have not heard back from Judge Morley. Judge DeVolska said that he would be putting it on Sherman County's agenda, I think, for today. So
since this has to be signed by all the counties, obviously, it just seemed to me, this my common sense coming out, that wouldn't you want to dissolve before you start another in procedure as far as order? It doesn't matter.
So you'd actually want to try to do it simultaneously. Technically, you'd actually may want to dissolve after you form the new one, because you don't want there to be a gap in services. So it's easier to move the cash and everything over. But basically the resolution, as you'll see for dissolving it, basically says like, hey, we're good with dissolving it, but Tri-County Community Corrections Board, you need to take care of all the nitty-gritty details on, because there's a pretty significant cash carryover that needs to be divided, and probably what we're going to do is just split it 3 ways.
Then what will the board look like for the 2 county corrections, or will there be a board?
There would not be a board. So she would become, Tina would become, Gary would supervise her. So she would become a employee underneath the sheriff's.
And we put that in the budget, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, she has her own department, but we would basically be saying, and I think one of the next steps we probably need to do, which maybe I'll task Lisa with, is we actually need to get her position description formally approved. And in that document, it says who her supervisor is. So we would just make it clear that it's the sheriff's employee. And then the way that the IGA is written, and Gary had asked that Tina, so Sheriff Smith from Wheeler County does not have firing, hiring, discipline, but is able to ask for specific things that he would like in it for his parolees. So Gary was giving an example of like certain people maybe need additional check-ins or things like that. And Gary has those regular conversations with Tina. And so this is written so that Sheriff Smith can also provide that input to Tina on specific, her specific clientele that she's dealing with. I don't even know if you technically call them clientele, but whatever they are. Yes, so that's what I know. Questions or concerns on either of these?
I don't have any.
I don't have any. Did have a question on the agenda. Did we skip 4.4 after we added?
5, 3, and 4 are the same. That's what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, 4.4 came in under the consent
That's
agenda.
consent agenda.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so I'd just be looking if we're ready to move forward for a motion on the intergovernmental agreement and then a separate motion on the resolution to dissolve Tri-County.
I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement for the provision of joint community correction services with Wheeler County as presented.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the intergovernmental agreement for the provision of joint community correction services with Wheeler County as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And then for 5.4, we just need a
Motion
motion on the resolution.
I move to approve the resolution for the dissolution of Tri-County Community Corrections as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution for the dissolution of Tri-County Community Corrections as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, under new business, 6.1 is consider approval of modification to Arlington Mason's fiscal year 2021-2022 capital investment grant agreement. Again, we did a bunch of these last time. These are just folks who had COVID hangups on the money. And so we just need to adjust the grant agreements to give them a little bit more time to expend the money.
Get their projects done.
Up first is Arlington Mason's. Their capital investment grant was to make building repairs and improvements. They've fallen behind schedule because of the building materials kind of crunch that's happening. And frankly, it's probably pretty expensive right now to buy stuff.
Yeah.
And so they would like us to please extend their grant period through December 31st, 2021.
I move to amend the fiscal year 2020 through 2021 capital investment grant awarded to Arlington Masons, allowing the grant period to be extended until December 31st, 2021. And authorize the county judge to prepare and execute an amended grant agreement reflecting the same.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we amend the fiscal year 2020 through 2021 capital investment grant award to the Arlington Masons, allowing the grant period to be extended until December 31st, 2021, and to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute an amended grant agreement reflecting the same. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 6.2. This is for the Arlington School District capital investment grant. This, similar to Condon's, they like to do obviously the construction during summer break, so they're not disrupting classes. And so they've asked for their modification through December 31st as well. And they were awarded the investment grant for various facility improvements that they have. The ongoing never-ending maintenance of those old school buildings.
I move to amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 capital investment grant award to the Arlington School District, allowing the grant period to be extended until December 31st, 2021, and to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute an amended grant agreement reflecting the same.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 capital investment grant award to the Arlington School District, allowing the grant period to be extended until December 31st, 2021, and to authorize the county judge to prepare and execute an amended grant agreement reflecting the same. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. 6.3 fiscal year 2021-2022 insurance renewal review. John.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good morning.
So what I wanted to do is just give a brief overview and review of our insurance renewal, both your package policy with City and County Insurance and your policy with Safe Corporation comes up 7-1. And then we have one piece of business to discuss as far as a gap in coverage that CIS has asked that I have talked to you guys about. So on the property and liability, including the autos and everything that's all packaged together with CIS, we are up a little bit. Certain lines are around 7%, some lines up to 10 to 12%. That being said, the good news is, the really good news is, with Safe Corporation, they purchased all of the CIS workers' compensations accounts, and they did a merger this year. With that merger, I already moved to Safe Corporation some years ago. With that merger, they applied a group discount. Plus, our work comp XMOD has gone way down, so your renewal there is down 30%. So, pretty happy with that. So, all in all, things look really good. I won't go into any specifics unless you ask me about them. So there is one thing that we wanted to address. So last year, I believe it was, Gilliam County purchased some additional cyber liability coverage. That's kind of been a hot topic if you've been watching the news. I had some long conversations with CIS, and they've seen their claims going up in that department as well. And so what you guys purchased is CIS gives you $50,000 worth of coverage. Okay, then they go out with what you've purchased, and you purchase an additional $1 million basically. They go out and purchase that from an additional company. That company has deductibles for the 3 tiers of cyber liability. One of them is extortion, right? And for extortion, there's a $250,000 deductible, and they don't have an option to cover that gap. And unfortunately, that is the most popular one. That's where the hackers come in and they lock up Gilliam County's computers, and they say, send us Bitcoin or X amount of money, or we're going to keep you locked out, or, you know, send in viruses. Not a computer guy, by the way.
When John first was describing this, I'm like, I don't understand what these words mean. You're gonna have to, you're gonna have to talk to me like I'm a 3rd grader, because I don't get this.
Okay, and then there's another tier of this cyber liability, and it's impersonation, fraud impersonation. So a good example of that, I shared this with the judge. Gilliam County goes into a new project, and you're working with the contractor, and you're about to transfer some large amount of money, right? The hackers come in, impersonate the judge, and say, go ahead and release this amount of money, but we're actually changing the bank account to something or whatever, and then the contractor goes, okay, and sends the money to a different account. So talking with CIS, they've had about 30 to 40 claims in the last 10 years in these. The lion's share being this ransomware extortion, the next tier being this impersonation. So they are able to move some things around. So basically, if you buy excess crime coverage from CIS for $250,000, if there is an impersonation thing, they'll match that deductible. So for $700, they pick up the $250,000 deductible.
That's a no-brainer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so we just needed some, and I think we could probably do it from consensus if we wanted John to add that, but I didn't want to.
That's an absolute.
So
right.
when they put this on the table, it's either we quote it for you and you accept it, or you actually have to sign a form saying, I acknowledge that my agent told me about this counter coverage. So either way, there was a little bit of work to do there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you guys accept, because it's in there, if we accept it by consensus, then we'll just add it.
Yeah, so in the packet list, you'll sign off on the liability, the property, the crime, and then you can neglect the one that says I understand.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So Teresa will make sure I sign the right thing.
Yeah, I put both options in depending on which way the court decides.
She'll check with you, and she usually puts a big arrow sticker that says sign here. Don't sign here. Any other questions for John? The workers' comp was a huge deduction. It was nice, actually.
Yeah, more than overcompensates for the rate increase for CIS overall.
Yeah, it was huge. All right. I don't have any questions.
No, I don't either. Good.
They get the paperwork signed this afternoon and get it over to you.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate it too.
Thanks for coming down.
Yeah.
No problem.
Okay. Last up on the agenda is 6.4, consider approval of position descriptions for senior meal site cook and assistant cook. Lisa or Sabrina, which one of you guys is taking this one?
Sabrina.
Hey, Sabrina. Are you there? There, I saw her on mute. Hi, Sabrina.
Hi. So we just have to get the meal site re-approved on the job descriptions, and I believe you guys have those.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have any questions or?
So am I correct that most of the changes were to make sure like the supervisor is correct and stuff like that? Is that, so these are pretty, these are most.
There was nothing major. Yeah, there was nothing major done to them. Just kind of cleaned up a little bit.
I guess I've got a question. I kind of get it, but it starts out with, in the first part, both of them, supervision received, and then has it under lease or chief of staff. Mm-hmm. And it's like, why would that even be in there when you delegate that supervision to somebody else? And then it goes on later, and the supervisor is the senior meal coordinator. So it's like, I mean, I get that by a, an org chart, that's where you are, but you really aren't going to be doing any direct supervision. There shouldn't be, I wouldn't think.
Well, by the very nature that I supervise Sabrina directly, means there is that chain of command that it's worth the employees knowing, same as all my direct reports know and have in their position descriptions. The next ultimate chain of command is the judge, should they have a need to escalate something above me, or I'm just not present, maybe I'm at the office or whatever, and they know then what their reporting structure looks like.
It's just a little confusing to me. It's like we got at that level reporting, but the confusion for employees is who do you go around to get what you want, and so I get what it is. It's just in every place I've ever been, you have a direct supervisor, senior, and that's who you report to. And it doesn't matter how far up the chart goes, because they all go to the CEO someday, and he didn't have to be on your job description.
Yeah, I think where this is a little bit unique is that, for instance, like our Lisa's direct reports, I'm the county court member that oversees those departments technically, right? So I'm the administrator in the office. So I'm the one who's doing disciplinary action, things like that. So I think part of the reason we have this in here is to make sure that chain is clear, because there isn't a single, because we're a board of 3, it's not necessarily clear, okay, does the county court make, which we don't make disciplinary decisions. That's one person that makes those. So I think that's partly why, because this is structured the same as other job descriptions were when they were done under the previous court. And I think that's the reason why it's structured in
the my question.
I do. But I think the reason they did that was because it's not, the chain isn't as clear when you have a 3-member board that's at the top, if that makes sense.
And if they do have a like human resources concern and they want to escalate it above and beyond, if they thought that they had to bring it to county court, then obviously it becomes public, which may not have been the intent with like employee situations. So we still want to keep that private.
Other questions, edits, concerns?
I don't have any.
Sabrina, anything else you want us to know? You are looking currently, correct?
Correct. So if you could help us out there, that would be great.
And you need both a cook and an assistant cook, correct?
We do both. We could.
For Condon.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, who's cooking now? You?
Me? Yes.
Good.
And
Anyway.
Kathy has been coming up and helping as well. And she's
She has.
Yes, and she's possibly interested in doing maybe permanent. So yes.
So how are we compensating her for that? Is she just volunteering?
No, she's getting paid.
Okay, good.
She has to be paid by law. You can't volunteer to do the paid job.
To do the actual.
Yeah. So since we don't have the cook filled there, I just told Sabrina and Lisa that we could pay out of that line item.
That makes sense. Okay.
Do we have a motion?
I would move to approve the position description for senior meal site cook and assistant cook as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the position descriptions for senior meal site cook and assistant cook as presented. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Sabrina.
I have a question for Sabrina.
Yes.
Is there a time frame when, but of course, I've been gone every Tuesday for the last 3 weeks. So are we bringing our seniors back into the mill site anytime soon?
We are still not able to, and they're waiting for state and federal to give us the okay that we can.
Okay.
But yeah, so we're still not hoping so soon though. It would be easier on everybody. So, and our seniors want it back very badly. So yeah.
They do. Okay.
Sabrina, is that guidance coming directly from the state or is that coming through CAPCO?
I think it's going to come down from the state, then to CAPCO, and then to us. Yeah.
Okay, I'll put that on my CAPCO agenda to ask that question, what they think.
Sabrina did.
Yeah, I was in a meeting yesterday with CAPCO, and so keep hounding them, I guess. I think it's going to come down from the state.
Okay.
And in case you missed it, Sabrina did in Condon, if you remember the old May Day lunches.
Oh, yeah.
She recreated with all of those old recipes.
How fun
the
is
May
that?
Day lunch. Was that last week or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, that was last Thursday. So those that wanted to eat there up at Burns Park were able to. So we had quite a few people that stayed and visited, and because I figured that population has been vaccinated, and we just left it as if you want it to go, you can get it to go, or if you want it here to visit, then do so. So we had quite a few that did. It was a little windy, but we did have it, and they totally enjoyed it. So yeah.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll be back on duty on Tuesday.
Perfect. I missed
you. I bet you did.
All right. So thanks, Sabrina. Let's move on to 7.0, which is announcements and next meeting. Next meeting is going to be on July 7th. We'll be back in Condon.
We have a special.
Oh, the
yes.
special meeting, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we also, let me just double check that I've got it in here. We will be having a special meeting. Thank you for reminding me, on June 30th, which is the last Wednesday of the month. And this is right now on the agenda. Nathan needs us to take up a supplemental budget to fix some things in the current fiscal year budget. So that is the main reason why it is when it is. We have to get it in before the end of the fiscal year. And then as other things come in, we may add them. I think Lisa is looking at maybe doing an executive session related to the CBA negotiations as well. And then if we have some other odds and ends, grant agreements or things that we may just add those on since we're going to be meeting anyway.
Okay.
That one will be in Condon and it will be on Zoom as well. And then the 7th will be our next regular meeting. And that one will be in Condon as well. Just as a reminder to folks that we've decided we're going to go back and forth. So the first meeting of the month will be in Condon and the second meeting will be in Arlington.
You should have called and reminded me this morning.
I know. I'm glad you didn't.
I almost did.
Drive all the way.
Close.
Drive all the way to Condon. Where are people?
I remember.
And so I'll kick it over to you, Sherry. What have you got going on?
We have Norcor board meeting tomorrow, and the packet and agenda and everything is on the Norcor website under the board of directors. If anyone's interested, we're still Zooming, staying out of the jail, which is good. And then Capco is the following Friday. And of course, everything they do is on the website, their website as well, if anyone's interested in listening into that.
How about you, Pat?
Well, in the last couple of weeks, I attended the Arlington City Council. We had the first Arlington revitalization meeting. Sherry was at too. And they're actually scheduling a kind of a town hall park party for like the third week of July to get people out, food and some entertainment and stuff to see if we can get people involved. I had the North Central Public Health meeting for this month, and then same day the Port of Arlington had their meeting. I've been attending the Korea meetings and would like to make a request on that to be at least an alternate, if not replace you, depending on which one. Maybe we put that on the agenda next time.
Absolutely, yeah.
It would be nice to be able to vote when nobody else is on there from the county.
Yeah.
And then I went attend the DOC Transportation Community Development Committee meeting coming up County College for the next 2 days.
You're almost done though, right?
You will need a vacation.
I think this is the
close.
last virtual, and then they'll have in-person meeting.
September.
I think you'll like the in-person. I don't know if Sherry felt this way, but it's been really helpful. Lots of times I've contacted county college members of our class and said, hey, how does your county do this? So
yeah.
Well,
it'll be nice to have
I
that
mean,
connection.
we're getting some relationships built by phone and you see them talk, but it'll be different. They've been doing, like the AOC did the committee meetings in Sun River the other day, and it's been nice to go. It just didn't work out for me. But then those aren't really committees I've been that involved in anyway. But I guess we got the special grant review coming up and road department committee meeting on. Are you going to that?
I'd love to.
You're supposed to be invited to, but I don't know how well the communications go. That's next Wednesday at 4 o'clock here at the Bronco's building.
Okay.
And I think, I know Dewey knew you wanted to be there.
Okay, good.
On that point, is it your intention, Sherry, to ask the road committee to take a look at the waste management?
Yes, the
project?
Cedar Springs project?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to
And
confirm.
I've had a conversation with Paul Barnett, and he was not aware that that was even something that we were considering.
Got it.
And so I wanted to make sure that the committee was aware of, you know, what.
Yeah, I don't even know, like with Eric and then if we've had much discussion in the committee meetings we've had about the specifics of that.
No.
Yeah.
Is that at 5 o'clock then?
4.
I think it'd be great to have their feedback, and maybe if they're willing to do some of the groundwork as well, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that's, if we can get them on board, then, you know, that would make it a lot, I don't know, more representative of the county.
Yeah, I think that's the
people that
key
were
question
really,
is when you look at the county as a whole, how much interest is there in spending money on?
Yeah, on something for specific.
Yeah, I think
So
that's a great idea.
That's always been my concern, you know, what do the citizens think about us spending $2 million on that little stretch of road that, you know, who does it benefit? So
Right.
I'd like them to weigh in.
And the only other thing I had is Next week,
Oh, my
we got
calendar.
the Executive Director Search Committee meeting for North Central Public Health.
Great.
Still working on that. So that's the 23rd, right?
23rd.
Okay, for me, I have, let me just look at my calendar really quick. The Frontier Telenet board is meeting on Tuesday, the 22nd. That'll be over Zoom, and we'll be wrapping up the budget. We did get it balanced, hallelujah.
Yay.
Without requiring significant more funding from any of the counties.
Yes.
So
That's good, yeah.
well, in the original draft that came out, Brenda was assuming that we would be spending about 100 and some, well, we have a grant from the state to put in a tower at Cottonwood Canyon. That grant, there's like 190 some thousand left in it from the state. The tower is still not up. And so she was anticipating that the total cost for that project would be 290 some thousand. And so what we decided is that we would take that number down to what the current grant amount is, and that the board would not pursue the tower until we find the funding for it. And so we were short 100,000, and so that closed the gap basically by saying, in essence, and I think Judge DeBolska's, what he raised is maybe the prospect of having the PSAP, the 911 board, pay for it.
I would love to attend that meeting, but we have collective bargaining that day.
Yeah. So anyway, the budget, the good news is that the budget is balanced for this year. The bad news is that it was balanced using a pretty significant cash carryover. And so the Frontier Telenet board is going to need to figure out how to make this thing work long term, because right now we are about 300,000-ish short of what we actually need to run it. And so whether that means we need to be talking to Jefferson County, who's a more heavier user now that's not paying user fees, how we close that gap is going to be a huge area of discussion. So I wanted to flag that for you, that to pay attention to that piece, because there's only so many places the money can come from, and I would prefer it not be our budget. but you guys need to be aware that it's not financially in the place it needs to be. So we still have some work to do in figuring out how to make the numbers work. Tri-County Community Corrections, that board will be meeting on the 23rd to do the wrap up, figuring out how to divvy up the money. Basically, there's a statute that says, which is, it's always interesting, things that you discover in Oregon law, but there's a statute that governs when you are transferring a public employee from one entity to another. They have certain rights. And so like their vacation time has to come over and all that kind of stuff. And so this meeting will basically be making sure that we've got everything in alignment with what that statute says for Tina coming over to us and for Kimmy going over to Wasco County. And then just making sure things like the vehicles are currently titled under Sherman County, and some are going to come to us, and I think some are going to Wasco County. So we need to make sure that that's all documented on where the vehicles are going, and make sure Sherman County is getting on transferring the titles over, all that kind of stuff. So it's mostly just housekeeping, probably not going to be that interesting. But the remainder of the money, I think we're probably just going to split 3 ways. And once we pay out the vacations and all that kind of stuff per the statute, then I think there's close to 600,000 that will be, so it's a pretty good chunk of money actually to be divvied up. But as we didn't track it throughout the history of Tri-County, who put in what, again, yeah, same as McCog. We just decided the equitable thing would be just to split it 3 ways and not run into what we did with building codes, where we had spent a year and a half trying to figure out, or 2 years trying to figure out where the money should go. So we'll just split it 3 ways, I think.
Seems fair.
Other than that,
What you sent an email on Tri-County court meetings?
Yes.
What's the What's your,
So
give us some info on that one.
right. So prior to the pandemic, the 3 county courts were meeting on a quarterly basis and rotating between the counties. The last meeting should have been held in Gilliam County, and we canceled it because of COVID. It was like in March or something when we were supposed to hold it. So I sent out an email to all 3 county courts asking, do we want to restart this? What's people's availability? I heard back from 3 people. I heard from Joan Bird in Sherman County that said she was interested and she could make it. I heard from Commissioner, I think Schaefer in Wheeler County that he couldn't make the dates, but he didn't really say whether he was interested in restarting them. And then Judge Tobolskis is harvesting during the dates that we kind of threw out. So my question to you guys is, would you like to restart it? These are typically just, we're not able to actually make decisions in them. They're just mostly information sharing. And so I wasn't sure if it's something we want to restart. If so, it would be us that's hosting.
Well, I agree with Joan. It's that whole thing where we're able to even just get together and hear what's going on in the different counties and help each other, wade through some things. And
I would agree.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you'd have to
enjoyed
come
them
with some
every
different
time.
dates to get it.
We definitely would probably need to come up with some different dates because I've already had of the 3 that responded, 2 said the dates didn't work for them. So
I would say, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Let's do whatever we can to
And the idea that I had
see what happens.
sort of thrown out was maybe having them hosted in Gilliam County at the new chamber building.
Oh.
Since it's that really pretty space.
Yeah.
And Kaylin has been working on broadening the Condon chamber to be a 3-county chamber. Right. So I thought that might be a good thing that because I know she's approached all 3 courts about supporting them in different ways. And so that might be a good place to host and at least one topic of discussion.
So do we wait another quarter maybe and go for September since
we could,
since it's been this long? Yeah,
I'm thinking maybe we aim for the fall and see if that's helpful for summer's hard. I know for people. Right. But if you guys are on board, then I'll go back to them and say,
very valuable.
Let's do it.
Put it together.
Okay, great. I will do that. Any other announcements or things for the good of the order? If not, it is 11:01 and I will adjourn the meeting.